The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
If you're building or buying or selling a home, the Real Estate Crew's got news for you at the Real Estate House Party.
With attorney Rick Carter,
Real Estate House Party.
paralegal Kathy Holtshouser,
Real Estate House Party. Come in, have fun.
and comedian Tony V. Now, here's real estate attorney Rick Carter.
Welcome and thanks for joining us here on the Real Estate House Party. That was quite an intro.
That was an intro.
That was nice.
That's my new. That's my
your new
intro.
move.
Yeah.
Very nicely
Yeah.
done.
Yep.
So, and we can notice that we got John Ternullo here.
Yeah.
One of our favorite guests.
What's the name of his outfit this month?
Does it change every month?
It changes every time I
worked
met
at-
you. It's got a slightly different.
It does?
Yeah.
Well, one
What's it
time
called?
they
Yeah.
it's leading edge real estate.
Okay. All right. That's been that for a while.
Yes.
Okay.
A very long time.
You know where Kathy is? She's at Napa. She's in wine country.
Oh, good for Kathy.
That's a few jokes
Yeah.
that could be lent.
Sure.
Do you want to start or you
Yeah.
want me to go?
How
Go
about
ahead.
this? That's wine. WINE, as to opposed to where she really is, usually, which is WHIN country.
She didn't want to zoom in today?
Last time we had, we won't even go over
She's
that.
out of focus.
Wine country. It's like me
It's
going.
early there.
It's like me going to the chocolate factory in Pennsylvania.
Right,
Hershey's
right.
chocolate
Right,
factory.
right.
So, yeah. No, we only kid. She doesn't drink that much.
No,
wine.
no. It's
no.
a gag.
It's a gag.
Yeah.
I mean,
She drinks other stuff.
yeah, when I clean up the bottles at their table at the end of the night, it's not always wine. So she loves her Schlitz still. I thought that went out in the 90s, but yeah.
Schlitz.
And
I didn't even know they still made
I
that.
thought that went
Blue
out in
ribbon.
like the 80s.
I see some Hoffenreffer little caps around her desk, too. Remember those things?
Haffenreffer.
You must remember those.
Haffenreffer?
Haffenreffer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
had the little
I remember those
puzzles on the caps.
yeah.
Yeah, she still does them. So,
Yeah.
hey, but enough
That was
about...
an ale. Haffenreffer was technically an ale.
Yeah, you're right.
They used to call it poor man's whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was poor man's headaches.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
what those were.
boy.
I know. We got a lot of questions
Yeah.
for you. And
I used to drink a thing called Croft Ale. Do you remember that?
no.
Came in the 40.
Oh,
Because it was
yeah,
cheap,
yeah.
and it tasted like flat beer with pepper in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what was inviting about it? The price?
Nothing. The price, yeah. It was like 49 cents. I don't know. It was-
You have a few shows coming up. I
I-
saw you at
I
Gig-
do.
You have giggles coming up there.
Yeah, I'll be
Southbound with...
at Southbound Route 1, Saugus.
Yeah, with our friend Artie.
Artie Januario.
Now that he's back from
Yeah.
the Cape
Two of the great
region.
duos in the world.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I saw all those listed.
Yeah. Dunkin's and Donuts and
Yeah.
Starsky and Hutch and me and Artie. Yeah. Yeah. Vernon Shirley. It's all the same. Yeah.
What else you got coming up? We never really promote your stuff that much.
Yeah,
always
because I never know where I am.
I know.
I got a Boston Blowout show coming on at the Regent Theater on June 24th.
So what's your Boston blowout show?
It's
Who's gonna be there?
Jimmy Dunn, Christine Hurley, Corey Rodriguez, me, and I think Will Noonan. Or,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good group. Good
Yeah,
group.
yeah. At the Regent Theater in
Nice.
Arlington.
All right. Oh, that's a good theater.
Yeah, and then I got a screening of the movie DOA
Oh.
on July 2nd.
You've been working that.
Yeah, I've been
That's
trying
all
to get
done,
that
right?
there. The movie's out.
Right,
I mean,
right.
the movie's done. It's been in the festivals and won
how's
all kinds of awards and festivals. So now they're trying to get it out to the public. You know, it's an indie, and it's stars John Doe from
Yeah.
the band X.
Yep.
He's playing later on that night at the Wilbur. So at 3 p.m. on July 2nd, we're going to do a screening and a Q&A with myself and John and Kurt St. Thomas, the director.
So when is that?
July 2nd,
That'd be
Sunday.
pretty cool to go to.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Where's it
yeah.
at?
At the Regent Theater as well.
All right,
yeah.
cool.
Leland Stein over there runs a great outfit.
I've seen the pictures to the movie. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah,
You
it's
look
black and
very,
white.
You look very dapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
It's a remake of a 1940s noir DOA.
Yeah.
Dead on Arrival. I won't give it away, but it's a good movie.
All right, we're gonna go.
Yeah, my son's going to see it in Los Angeles on Thursday.
Oh, cool.
So
He'll
he'll see it
sneak from
before
you.
me. Yeah, and I'll get his honest opinion.
And he's usually
one
very
way or
honest.
the other. Yeah,
That Gus
with
will tell
me
you.
he is.
He'll tell you what's on his mind.
Yeah. So I got a lot of stuff coming up.
And John Ternullo, you got a lot of stuff coming up.
Leading edge.
Leading edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor John. You're making it sound like he's moved every week.
I know. I've actually been at the same
Company.
outfit for over 15 years.
But didn't it?
No, you're right. I know what you're saying. The ownership has changed. The name.
Well,
a few years ago.
The name, yes.
Right.
The ownership
But
hasn't
weren't
changed, but
weren't you Ternullo and
well, we're still
he
the
still
Ternullo
is.
team.
the captain and Ternullo? Weren't you something like that?
He's still
I don't know about
married.
the I'm not about the captain. Yes, I am still married. We are the Ternullo team.
Okay, all right. That's all. I'm not making this
No,
stuff up.
I know.
My head's a dark place, John. You got to know that.
You don't wanna go
When I'm
there.
not thinking, I grow mushrooms up there. It's not a good place. Yeah. Go ahead.
You got a nice haircut.
I
We're all
did.
getting haircuts. That's
Yeah.
nice for
Yeah,
the shows.
summer dew. You got to get your
You got to get the summer dew
Sure.
there. Got to work on that so you don't get the tan when you get the
Yeah.
haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Also, hey, before we get into this, you want to know another ironic thing?
Tidbit. Yeah.
I am opening for a Billy Joel tribute band.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
That doesn't. That's
Yeah.
something's wrong with
I
that.
took the gig, and then I found out it was a Billy Joel.
Oh, so you didn't know before
I
that?
didn't know beforehand. No.
Not one of Tony's
The
favorites.
only way that could be worse.
If it was a Barry Manilow tribute
No,
band.
if it was actually Billy Joel.
Billy Joel has his own tribute band.
Yes.
Where is that going to be?
In Lexington at the Carry Theater. Yeah.
Billy Joel.
Tribute band.
Are you
Me.
going to be singing along?
Oh, yes.
Gonna be at the piano?
Yes. I'll be talking to Davey, who's still in the...
Doesn't have time for a wife?
No.
Wow, you guys know the lyrics.
We know the lyrics for
I can't get them out of my head.
I know it's like but John always thinks about 10 minutes into this.
Yeah.
Oh, I ruined my whole afternoon.
No, he hasn't. Listen, this is better than anything else you could be doing. Even
we
if
got to
it's...
follow up on that Billy Joel tribute.
Yeah,
It's
when
better
I get
than a
more
lot of things.
information.
Better about everything.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're not working. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
You can check off in your book that you did something work-related.
Right.
But you're just hanging out with two idiots.
Right. Suppose that. That should be our hashtag.
Yeah.
All right. Give us, first of all, the State of the Union address. What's going on out there? This is really a funky market.
It's a funky market.
I don't know what's going on. Is it a seller market? Is it a buyer's market?
It's definitely a seller's market.
Still, right?
It's definitely a seller's market.
Yeah.
There's not a lot out there. Not a lot of homes for sale. There's buyers out there looking, and we are still seeing
So they're still
multiple
just
offers.
as frustrated as always, right?
Buyers, yes, and
Yeah.
prices are going.
Up.
They're accelerating.
They're
Prices-
going, even with the
Even with the rates as high
the
as
way
they
they
are.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of you can't predict. You're right. You figure with the rates going skyrocketing, prices will be come down a little bit. But
Right.
What I'm afraid of is if rates come down, then what's gonna? I mean, and
then the prices are
prices may even go
More.
higher. I mean,
Yeah.
because demand is very strong right now. I mean, there's just not a lot of inventory out
Right.
there, and there's a ton of buyers out there looking.
I see a lot of building going on. I mean,
Yep.
but these monstrosities, these, condo units or whatever, does that affect anything? The fact that they're
it's only
building
helping
all
out a
this
little
stuff?
bit.
Yeah,
you're the
it's
expert.
only helping out. I mean, we need.
It's only like
You need that much more.
it's like a drop in the bucket, but
Right.
it just seems like
every inch of space in
Right.
Somerville, Cambridge, Boston,
Yeah.
that you can put a building, someone
oh
seems
yeah,
to be
oh,
putting
yeah.
a building.
Oh yeah. And there's so much demand around here. I mean, I'm not sure. We're just so lucky around here in this part of the country.
Well, that's just it too. I mean, for a long time, demand was strong, throughout the country.
Yeah.
And experts predicted, things wouldn't be the way they are right now. But this year, the East Coast and the Boston metro area
Right.
is strong, where other parts of the country,
Right.
some parts of the country are strong and other parts
Right.
aren't so much. Some parts, values went down slightly. Here, that's not the case.
Yeah, and it makes sense that the more people there are,
Yep.
The more houses
No,
you
no,
need.
you're right.
Well,
I mean, that's simple, but, there's so many people, and then
And there's so much so much good opportunity in this
Right,
area.
right.
You got the education, you got
There's a-
health
Yeah.
system.
Yes, Boston is definitely a
Yeah.
major
It's a
player.
magnet.
Here's the root of the problem. We got to stop getting these young people to have sex and making more people. Because if they make more people...
Is that what you're going to promote today during that show?
Yeah,
That's
stop having sex. Or have, sex that doesn't produce children. I don't have to get into that.
Words of wisdom to solve
Yeah.
the real estate issue.
Yeah.
So we've been
You think it's the rates, but it's the sex. That's really
So we've been sending out reels of our show. That's the first one. Tony V looking very serious, saying we got to stop having sex.
Not
Tony's
we,
getting to the
not
root.
we. No, we're
Oh, we're fine.
We're fine.
We're grandfathered, literally grandfathered.
Yeah, I'm not going to sire any more children. I've already damaged the world with my two. I'm talking about.
So we're fine. We're
Yes.
grandfathered.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm talking about people of childbearing age. Yes.
Oh, God. So
That's good for the clarification.
Yeah.
So it's still crazy out there. Still multiple offers. Still offers
still
going
multiple
above.
offers. I mean, there are. So the funky thing is there are still some homes that may, in our area, may stay on for a week and not sell within the first week. But there's a lot of houses out there. What we're constantly
The
telling
sellers
buyers.
panic when theirs is on for a week. When
And
everyone else
if it
is sold
doesn't
in
sell,
a day.
yeah. I mean, that's
A week's a long time.
Yeah.
well, a week is okay.
Yeah, a
but
week's okay.
when it's like 10 days plus, that's a long time.
That's when you panic.
Yeah, and for buyers out there, we just keep telling them it's the market's stronger than you think it is, and frankly, as real estate agents, and we're doing this every week, sometimes it's stronger than we think it is.
I'm going to digress for 1 second. We've had a broker on, and I won't mention his name. I've known him a long time, and this was years ago. And I went into his office about something, and I said, "What's the matter with you?" He goes, "Oh, I just got another listing." I said,
Right, like that.
"Talk about the change of market."
Sure.
I said, "Well, isn't that what you're supposed to be doing?" He goes, "Yeah, but they don't sell for like 3 months. I got to pay for the advertising. I got to do this, and this." I said, "Oh, I don't know. It seems like that's what you should be doing."
These days it's tough because not enough people, and the buyers out there. I mean, millennial buyers out there, they're at the age where they're ready to start a family and
Buy a house.
Well,
Buy a house.
Not now.
Not now. With Tony's plan in place.
well, maybe maybe 20 years from now.
20 years from now. Right?
He's getting
This is what I'm
getting at the
saying.
root of the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
not
trying to cut it off early.
Yes.
I'm looking into
He's
the
not,
future.
trying to.
Yeah, no.
He's not going after the symptoms. He's
He's literally
The
cutting
root
things off.
of the problem. Yes. Too many people. Yes. Not enough houses. It's simple.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Simple math.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for it.
I try to put everything in perspective for the people.
All right, still multiple offers.
Still multiple offers.
Still. So what are the offers like? What are they putting in there now? Because I thought a lot of the stuff was going to start disappearing. The lack of mortgage financing, the lack of appraisal.
Well, that's so for a while when rates doubled, when it first shocked everyone, things did slow down and houses took longer to sell, and
Right.
and while prices were still up, the sellers didn't have all that leverage of the rent backs and people waiving everything. Home inspections started coming back, but this year,
So the rent backs are usually when they allow the seller to stay in the property.
Yes.
Until they can find some place to live.
or
Right.
maybe 2 months or a month or
right,
whatever.
right.
But these days now, a lot of buyers think, well, it's the highest price that wins, but it's not that simple. These days,
That's what I was going to ask you. So when you because a lot of times you're on the listing end, you're getting multiple offers.
Yes.
You're getting 10, 15 offers. Obviously, the sellers want price. But today, I think we should just throw it to some of our millennial viewers what they can look for in an offer, put in an offer that might make theirs a little bit more attractive than the next offer. So what would a seller, obviously they'll love the price. Say Tony's selling his house. Never. We've agreed on that. Say he is, though, and price is one thing, but you get 10 offers, all right around the same. What do you give up a little bit on the price to get something else sometimes?
Well, what we found, and every seller is different, right? And sometimes there's no magic, answer to what is the best offer.
Yeah.
However, generally what we're seeing is once there's multiple offers and the offers get high.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
in
there's
terms
the
of
auction
price.
effect.
Once there's the auction effect, yes. You know,
I
You
pay
are so-
attention.
You're just
Don't look at me like that.
I'm so impressed.
I pay attention.
usually sellers, you know, once it gets to a certain point,
Yeah.
you know, now they pay less attention to price almost, and now they're more concerned with which one's going to hit the closing table
Quicker, easier.
the easiest. No,
Right.
depending
Without
on
a
the
lot of
situation, it could be.
contingencies.
Yes, they don't
Right.
want the risk of.
So for clarification, so
Yes.
someone's bidding $1 million over someone else might not be the best thing in the world because it's still subject to an appraisal.
Yes, and that's what a lot of buyers sometimes and sellers. You know, the whole appraisal thing is confusing to a lot of buyers and sellers, and they don't understand that. You know, if a home was listed at $600 and someone's saying that they're willing to pay $700,
Right.
well, unless it appraises at $700,000, you know.
But shouldn't you get your appraisal first so you know what the ballpark is?
God, I'm teary-eyed how good you're at this. I don't
know,
even think I
I'm
need to be
picking
on
up
the
the
show
slack for
anymore.
Kathy.
Yeah, to his point, can they somehow figure out beforehand?
Well, here's the thing, right? So who would get the appraisal first, the buyer or the seller?
I would think the seller, so he knows what to list it at,
Well,
or what the ballpark.
So what we're seeing, so in today's market, what we're seeing is, say if a house is listed at $600,000, for example.
Okay.
Right, and his neighbor has a very similar home, and you know that one sold, say 6 months ago for say $650.
All right.
We can assume that $650 is okay.
Is a good number.
Yes.
You start at 650,
Well, not necessarily. Sometimes you still start at $600,
right? And
assuming
then
that it's
hope
going to
the,
bid up.
Auction effect.
Yes. The issue what we're having today is we're having buyers and we're seeing buyers put in offers that are higher than what the comparables
I
are
see.
actually showing. So that neighbor that listed at 600 may actually get 700. So now there's a question of, will it appraise at 700 if their neighbor sold at 650?
How many are you seeing appraisal issues at this point?
Well, so we actually haven't seen all that many appraisal issues.
You know
Right.
what? I've noticed that. It's almost like these appraisers,
They're getting it.
they're getting it.
They are getting it, but what the problem is, what the obstacle is that, you know, sometimes the seller doesn't want to take the chance,
yeah.
Right.
and sometimes the buyer may or may not be able to make up a difference should it not appraise.
Right,
So
right.
ultimately, like, you know, if a buyer is willing to pay $100,000 over asking, but it only appraises for $50,000 over asking,
Right.
then, you know, chances are that buyer may be able to back out.
He can. They can.
Generally speaking,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a hard and fast, but
Right.
I'm gonna.
But if
relate-
someone's willing to stick with that $600,000, I mean the $100,000 over,
correct.
can they still do it?
Well, so that now we're getting to, you know, this is something that we're coaching a lot of buyers on to look at their financing to say,
Right.
like, say if someone's a 20% down buyer, you know, and they're offering 700,000 and they're planning on putting 20% down on 700,000. Well, say if it only appraises at 650,
Right.
you know,
put
they
20% down on
650,
Right.
and
and
then
they're making up the difference.
can they make up another $50,000 on top of that?
Right.
Some can and some can't.
Can't.
So what we're seeing in offers is if a buyer basically addresses that issue ahead of time, it essentially lessens risk for both the buyer and the seller. It sets that expectation to make an offer more favorable to both
I see.
to the seller, and that helps the buyer get an offer accepted.
Okay.
You know, the clause that a lot of brokers and a lot of buyers and sellers have confusion on is that appraisal language. We won't get too crazy on it today, but we've talked about it before. But where, say, it's selling for $700,000, and the seller says, "But I don't want any appraisal language in there. I don't want it saying that it has to appraise out at $700,000." So what some buyers do is say, "All right, well, we'll make up like $10,000 difference." So they'll say, all right, if it comes in at 690 or above, then we'll still move ahead. No one ever seems to put in what happens if it's below the 690.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, and that's and that
So
is
it's almost like giving the buyer an out that the seller was adamant about not doing.
correct.
Yeah.
You know, And going back to the buyer putting in that offer, it's important that they understand that, some sellers or listing agents may look at if they come in $100,000 over asking but can only make up $10,000 of a difference,
Right.
that's not always a positive to the seller, because sometimes sellers look at that and they say, well, if it appraises at 630, then what happens, right?
Right.
So then,
Right, now you're $70,000 off.
So now what we could
whatever.
probably do related. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, so it's something that buyers just need to really understand and take a look at their finances to address the issue of
Right.
if it comes in over, under the agreed upon purchase price, what could happen? What are they willing
Right.
to do?
So to
Right.
Tony's point, to do it early enough. So it's almost like they should say, all right, 600,000, we're going to offer you 700,000. They almost should say, all right, you're already willing to. I would almost like to see the second part to the paragraph where it says, all right, 600,000, we're going to offer you 700,000.
As long as you don't have sex.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be in every purchase and
Right.
sale now.
That should be a little clause.
Right or A?
Right.
Why don't we put in there then, if they're already willing to pay $100,000 over, and the appraiser comes out at X amount, it'd be $100,000 over that, not to exceed the original.
Correct. Yeah. So in other words, like it just needs, as long as it appraises at 600,000.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing.
Well,
So-
no, if it appraises at 590,
Right.
why don't they
Less.
offer the 690?
Yeah. I mean that.
So keep the same ratio
Yeah,
of
exactly.
overage.
Exactly.
So ultimately, what buyers need to understand is that in a normal market, right? When they're buying a house, the contract favors buyers, right? Because
It does.
they can back out a lot easier because they have a lot more protection. So unfortunately, in today's market, the way it is that buyers essentially, the more protections they're willing to give up, and the more risk that they're willing to take, the more favorable their offer
Offers.
looks.
I see.
So what we talked to our buyers
So
about.
the less hoopla involved in
Right.
your offer, the
Right.
better off.
So
Right.
what we coach our buyers on is essentially, what are the things, what risks make sense for you?
Right.
That
What can you keep and what are you willing to give up?
Exactly.
Right.
And for everyone that might be different. So for some buyers, if they have a lot of cash on hand, it doesn't matter, and they can make up a difference should it not appraise. So they can address that. For other people,
If they really want that property.
yeah.
Right. Now, does that affect prices in subsequently after that in the neighborhood?
Yes.
It
yeah.
does.
Yeah. In fact,
So you're screwing your neighbors if you don't do
Back
it
to your
right.
original point.
This is-
No more screwing your neighbors.
That's the whole problem. It's so simple. These people are idiots. Go ahead.
Let's come back to your way.
down to simplest.
You seem to have a couple things on your mind.
No.
So
No. I'm done. I got everything I wanted to say.
has your neighbors been screwing each other over lately? Is there something in the
Well, my neighborhood, you can't go by my neighborhood because my neighborhood, an anomaly. My street is the craziest street, I think, in all of Boston.
Really?
It's all brownstones.
Right. Right.
In a historic district with the Bunker Hill Monument.
Yep.
So we got people, I have people who have like multiple giant cars on a street that you should have minis on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
No, I
money's
do.
not an issue to them.
Right,
There's
right.
a lot of rich people.
Right,
I'm
right.
probably the poorest person on my street.
Do you know how much your house is worth right about now? I don't think you're poor anymore,
No,
Tony.
well, on paper,
on paper, you're looking
Well,
good.
Let me say this. My kids will benefit from this. My wife's not going to let me touch a nickel of it because she'll know I'll run right over to Encore.
Literally, right.
Right. Literally, it's a half a mile
Right,
away.
exactly. I know.
But I think my street's not a good example.
Yeah.
A lot of buildings that were, like 3 units are now just single-family
Imagine that because
houses
they can afford that.
because they can afford
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, they just come in and rip the whole thing
You
apart.
ever see Tony in the Globe in the winter? He seems to get in there once a winter, where he's sitting there in his bathrobe in his army boots,
Yeah.
and no pants on,
No pants.
and
Saving
sitting,
my pocket space.
saving his pocket space.
Yeah, having a cup of
He's got
coffee.
his pylons.
Yeah, yeah.
Welcome to Charlestown.
Yep.
All right, back to you. So, what are we seeing now as far as what's being deleted out of home inspections? What's going on with home inspections?
Yeah, I mean, as an agent, we can never tell anyone to waive home inspection, but
Yeah, I would leave that up to them. Yeah.
but we are seeing that. I mean, that's on the listing side, we're seeing a lot of buyers
Still waiving them.
Waving it.
waiving home inspection.
So it's not much has changed in the last.
And then, and we've even seen buyers that are taking out a mortgage and waiving mortgage contingency as well too. So
Yeah.
we've seen buyers do that. So ultimately for a seller, if they get an offer with a high price and no contingencies whatsoever,
That's the one that's going.
that's the ultimate
money.
offer.
Right.
So. So for buyers out there, the way to put in a very strong offer is to, somewhere, wherever you can, make your offer. You don't necessarily have to waive everything,
Right.
but addressing those contingencies help.
Can you explain to me escalation clauses, and do they really work? And are they on the up and up? It seems like there's a lot of holes to an escalation clause. It almost seems like a buyer's tipping their hand. First of all, they'll say, "Well, on that $600,000 house, don't tell anyone, but we'll go up to $650,000 on that."
Well, so escalation clauses are kind of.
Are they still? I don't see them.
So
as,
we are seeing them a lot.
you still
right?
are.
And
We are-
technically, what is it? It just says you'll.
An escalation clause is when someone puts in an offer and they say, "Hey, if we're not the highest offer, we'll beat out any other offer by."
So
X
you have
amount
my
of dollars."
permission to go to this
Right,
number.
yes.
Right.
Unfortunately, 4 or 5 other people have done the same thing. So,
right.
So you're the attorney. I mean, a lot of people look. A lot of buyers look so
He
much.
pointed at you
on
when
the-
he
I
said
think
that?
he said that,
I think
yeah.
he said you.
A lot of people mistake me for an attorney.
So a lot of times people get caught up on the escalation
Yeah.
clause about well, what happens if blah, 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 blah. And ultimately, two things. Number one, some listing agents don't even want to see it. So
Right.
it depends really on the listing agent because they're kind of holding the cards.
Right.
But two, essentially the escalation clause is a way to tell the listing agent or seller, hey, if we're not the highest offer, please call us back.
Right.
That's really what it boils down
That's
to.
what
Isn't it
comes
almost
down
the same as just get us your best and highest offer?
Well, so it depends. Like a lot of times buyers, when they look at the escalation clause, they're thinking that they're paying more money, when in actuality, an escalation clause usually comes into play if they're trying to save money. It's actually the opposite.
Right.
Meaning,
They're not going to go above a certain number.
well, let's just go back to that. If a house is listed at $600,000,
Right.
and they're willing to pay $700,000, but they feel like what a lot of buyers are afraid of is they don't want to pay $700,000 if no one else is willing to pay anywhere close to that.
I see.
No one wants to bid against themselves. So sometimes if they're willing to pay $700,000, but they're afraid that no one else will come close, they may decide to put in an offer and then do an escalation clause to say, hey, just in case if we're not the highest, we
Right.
would
so
go.
put in at 650 and go, if you get more than this,
Yeah.
we'll go to 7.
But now on the flip side, what a lot of buyers don't realize,
The seller's judging that.
yes, if a seller, and we've seen this situation time and time again, where we have 10, 15 offers, and on that $600,000 house, if someone comes in at $700,000 right off the gate
Right.
with very little terms, and someone else comes in at say $625,000, and then they have an escalation clause saying that they would come close to $700,000,
Yeah.
Or even a little bit more.
or even a little bit more. Most of the time,
you might just take the $700,000.
the seller would just go for the $700,000 because
right.
they've already shown that they've committed to that.
To
Right,
that.
right,
You
right.
don't have to do a lot of song and dance to get there.
Exactly.
Right.
Let me ask you this one, too, because I know we're running out of time, and we'd love to prep you for something.
Wow, I love it when the show it flew by.
It did
flew
fly
by.
by.
And with
It
so
flew
much
by.
information.
Have you ever chosen an offer because that person's working with a buyer agent that you know is pretty professional, gets things done? You know what I mean?
Well, I will say that.
What are some of the intangibles, in other words, why you would
Yes, so that's
accept
actually
an offer?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just look at the contract.
Right.
But, I've had many times where our buyers got offers accepted where I feel like it wasn't because the listing agent knew me, but they knew my integrity and reputation.
Right.
Because unfortunately, there are a lot of agents out there that say one thing. They may say that they're going to waive home inspection, but before they sign the purchase and sale, they want to look at the house supposedly for measurements, and they're bringing in a home inspector.
Sure.
Right.
So yes, having a good, reputable agent and convincing the seller and the listing agent that you are ethical and all that kind of stuff makes a huge difference.
Sure.
Okay.
Who would have thought integrity would come into this?
Not with your frame of mind today.
Not today, yeah. No.
Shall we recap your key takeaways from today?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because
we have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Literally.
Yeah, we do have to. Yeah, you should wrap it up. That's just what I'm saying. See, John's paying attention.
He's paying attention. Everyone's paying attention.
Wrap that rascal. Yeah, stop having sex to create more, more of a demand on properties that we don't have.
You're going to help the real estate, the market.
Right. Unless you can bid $100,000 over asking price comfortably, then have all the sex you want because you obviously don't care about money one little bit.
And there you go. John, what do you think?
Solving all the real estate issues out there today.
One at a time.
And integrity. Who knew was a thing?
That's awesome. John Ternullo, a lot of information today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Did
we learn something?
I learned a lot.
We learned a lot. Thank you, Tony V. Southbound, Route 1.
This weekend with Artie January. Pharmacist. Yeah, good show.
John Ternullo, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for staying at your one job finally.
And not
for 2 weeks.
Names.
For a couple of weeks. We'll see you next week here on the Real Estate House Party. Thanks for joining us.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.